Live from the Coachella Valley. Time for another hour of the desert scene. Art exhibitions to modernism. Music festivals to live theater. Big screen, little screen, and very little screen. This is the Culture Corner with Bonnie Gilgallon and Brayan Mendoza. Here's Bonnie and Brayan on iHub Radio.
And good Friday afternoon to you, and welcome to the Culture Corner. It's a really pretty day, kind of windy out there. I'm here, Bonnie Gilgallon, here with Brayan Mendoza. Another edition of the Culture Corner. So I think we wanted to dive in and talk about the Super Bowl.
Oh, the Super Bowl. Everybody has opinions about that, but I love it. I didn't see the Super Bowl when it was on. I did not. But I guess it's one of those things where I just forgot it was happening, and I had heard that they actually had it going on, and I thought, oh, well, I guess I have to watch the performance now, because I think that's the only reason people watch it.
Yeah, unless you care. I mean, I didn't care about either of the teams. So unless it's Green Bay, which is Eric's favorite, or the Washington Redskins. Well, now it's not the Redskins anymore, but that's where I'm from. If it's not those two teams, I don't care. So I didn't care about the game, but I watched the national anthem, and I watched the halftime show. The national anthem was interesting. It was that country artist and then the other woman. Do you have the names? I don't recall who the names, but it was kind of interesting the way they did it. Did you get to see that afterwards?
Wasn't it? I was going to say Miley Cyrus.
No. It was a country. It was a gentleman. It was a country artist, and then a woman with African American woman with braids. I mean, they both had really good voices. They did it together. I can't remember either name right now off the top of my head. Sorry.
I think it was probably. I got the impression it was Eric Church.
Yes.
And Jasmine Sullivan.
That's
so
it. Yeah.
I thought they did a pretty decent job with it.
It's interesting to do it as a duet, but
that's what I didn't notice, is that it was a duet. And because usually people, they sing at once, and I think most people, it's kind of hard when it comes to that song to do it as well as Whitney Houston, because Whitney Houston is the standard for that song now. So for me, it's kind of like every time I listen to the national anthem, I think Whitney Houston, you know what I mean? And
and I know there are a lot of people that agree with me. I'm a little bit of a purist. I don't like it when people take a lot of liberties with it, sing the song the way, I mean, if you want to bend a note here or there, that's fine, but don't change it up. Most people want to hear the national anthem as the national anthem. So I'm impressed when someone sings it basically the way it was written with some power in their voice. That's what I want to hear.
I think for me, the standards would be that Lady Gaga did a lot of good things with it and extended a few notes, but that was
basically kept it, and that was fine. What she did was fine. Yeah.
And a long time ago, there was this artist named Fergie who had done the national anthem in a way that it almost sounded like a sultry jazz song, and I thought, don't do it.
I think, but now, so let's talk about the halftime show, because it's brought up a lot of controversy. A little bit older than you, so The Weeknd, I knew the name, but I didn't really know his music that well. It didn't really do it for me. I mean, he's got a little bit of charisma and, has a decent voice. Couldn't understand a lot of the words. A lot of it. Couldn't understand what he was saying. There were some production values, but again, I thought it was a little dark. I mean, I guess he was doing some message a little bit about the virus, and I get that. And the people with the masks, they look like jock straps on their heads. I mean, that's what Eric said. He said, "Why do they have jock straps on their heads?" I said, "I don't know." It just didn't do it for me. I think right now what we need in this country is happy, upbeat, happy, yay, to get us out. And that was a little dark for me.
I personally thought that the whole thing didn't look rehearsed enough. I get that with social distancing and the virus that you can't meet up often enough to rehearse.
Right, the way you would.
And the camera was really erratic to me. So I felt that, first of all, if you can't rehearse it often enough to put on a good show, maybe you should maybe reduce your ambition a little bit, because what they say is that even with a small budget you can do great things with it. So I can't even use that as an excuse, they had a big budget so they got to use it. They could have used,
save it for next year.
They could have saved. And
yeah.
Also the fact that it just seemed really erratic at times. And I also wasn't a big fan of the part where he grabbed the camera, or the camera was really close to him. That part, to me, I wasn't sure about. And I know the song is called Can't Feel My Face When I'm With You. I don't know what the problem was with the singing, but there was something kind of off about how he sang. It was good. It sounded good, but I wasn't sure like I think we were talking during before going on that you didn't quite understand what he was saying.
Yeah, I couldn't understand a lot of it. And, it just, I think back to, Gloria Estefan, Madonna, Michael Jackson, even Jennifer Lopez last year and Shakira. I mean, yeah, it was a little bit over the top sexualized, but it was entertaining. It was entertaining. And this, I didn't think was that entertaining.
It felt long. That's the thing.
It did feel long, yeah.
It felt like a really long experience. And when it got to a point, I think The Weeknd is one of those people that his music has certainly been a lot better now than it was in the beginning. In the beginning, I was like, okay, I'm not feeling it. I'm not interested. And then now he started singing songs like The Hills and Blinding Lights, which is the last song he sang. Mm-hmm. By the way, Blinding Lights, that's when I think the show picked up.
Now tell me, since I couldn't understand half of the words, what's the basic premise of that song?
Blinding Lights, honestly, like it's one of those songs where I just kind of think,
what's he referring to with blinding lights? The blinding lights of
Hollywood,
of the music business, of
that's a good question.
Finding God, or I don't know.
That's a good question for me. I always thought of it was about a relationship.
Okay,
but to be honest, like his music is more of like the aesthetic music. Like you kind of listen to it and you enjoy it for what it sounds like and what the words and the music sound good together, and not so much like the meaning. And I feel like that, and when it comes to music, I'm one of those people that I feel like that's just as great as songs with like super deep meanings, because to me, I've heard songs with great meanings that don't sound good at all.
Right.
So,
and the Super Bowl halftime show, I think it's a very specific feel and look that you want. There's some great performers out there who I don't think would be good doing a Super Bowl halftime show, just because you gotta be big, and Michael Jackson and Madonna and that kind of stuff. And some of it's gotta be upbeat. I don't think it's a time to have big, serious messages that are a little dark. It's just not the time for that.
I felt that the bandages, I got the idea about, Hollywood looking a certain, like Hollywood surgeries and all that. And I kind of thought, well, first of all, I almost want to tell The Weeknd, who's doing that? Like, who is having the major surgeries? Because every other day it's coronavirus. And when I see bandages, that doesn't speak to me that, Hollywood is very aesthetic focused. And it is true. Yes, it is aesthetic focused.
Of course it is.
Anywhere it is. But I felt that, to me, it felt more like oopsie daisy. I used hospital like materials to me. Like it felt
you're wasting that for a halftime show that could go to something else. Yeah.
And I thought, like, I don't know, for me, like when I've had some friends say, I just don't know if like using like disabled imagery really works anymore, because like I've seen like artists that I've seen a lot of artists in the past who would be in a wheelchair when they don't need to be, and it's like, what are you shocking? What exactly are you saying?
I think we have. People. I know sometimes you hear people say, "Well, everything's politically correct now." Well, you know what? We've gotten to a point. I like to think we've evolved this country into a place where you need to be sensitive about other people and empathy. It's a big word, empathy. It's part of the reason we have Joe Biden in the White House, I think. But making fun of someone else for a disability or an ethnic thing it's just not appropriate at all. And I don't think it ever was, but less so now than ever before, I think.
Also, the thing is, if your message was strong enough, it would survive any, I guess, political correction. Like if you had a strong enough message, and let's say I watched All in the Family, and someone said to me, "Oh, that show would be canceled today." I would disagree with that, because that show actually had a point, and it made a message. And so anytime they used any derogatory terms, or they had Archie, the thing is, Archie wasn't correct,
right? And he was. They knew that. They knew that going in. Okay, here's somebody you don't want to emulate. But no, I think Norman Lear, absolutely. It was he had messages with some humor in there that you don't. This is not cool the way he is.
And the thing. And how it relates back to The Weeknd is the fact that his bandages didn't really speak to me with any real meaningful message. So for me, it's like, not only is it looking like jock straps, like you said, it also kind of does this thing where people use images medical images, like disabled medicalist images
for entertainment.
And it's kind of like, okay, it's getting old. Like, do we need another person with like bandages on their face when they don't need them, or someone in a wheelchair, or somebody using crutches when they don't need to? Like, for me, it's kind of like, those are not shock value. Like, it's not shocking anymore because I've seen it so often that it's like, well, what are you trying to say that someone else tried to say years ago?
Right.
And also for me, like, the only time the show picked up was Blinding Lights. And other than that, it's because I really like that song. I think it's a really good song.
Mm-hmm.
Other than that, the show itself just was an awkward experience. And I think all the jokes about his, like, mugging for the camera were rightfully on point. And I would also say that I think the costuming was really off because, like, the red costume, like, to me, it's like, reminds me a lot of the villains from the movie Us with Lupita Nyong'o. And I was like, okay, these people dance like the Tethered, because in that movie the Tethered are like the opposite people. Like, they move weird, they don't talk right. It's like they're like the opposite creatures that can't move correctly, and it felt like these are the tethered people, and then the real dancers are underneath, like in the movie, like instead of it being the other way around. I just thought, geez, like, what an interest. I mean, I would say, at least, I guess, like, he took a risk, but I don't think it paid off.
I don't think it worked. And again, I think right now in this country, what we need most is hope, laughter, upbeat, happy, sun, light at the end of the tunnel, because we've been through some heavy stuff. We're not quite out of the heavy stuff. So I want to see, hey, fun, dancing, happy, smiley, you know? You know,
it's funny you say that, because in the beginning, I thought that's how it was going to be, because I saw the set in the beginning, and I thought, yes, we do need something so bright and energetic. And his song Blinding Light could honestly be a fun song. But for some reason, he chose to take it into this whole different direction. And look, maybe we'll be wrong in a couple, like, years where it's like, oh, okay, maybe that was the right decision, which I don't think it is. Like, I think that when it comes to Super Bowl performances, the ones that age well, they tend to be good the first time around.
And really entertaining and big, you know.
And they speak in the moment.
Yeah, exactly. And I just don't think he quite did that. I mean, it's, you know, he has some talent, but I just don't think that show was the kind of Super Bowl show we needed now.
And I'm trying to think to myself, like, what is an artist that I would have done instead? And honestly, I would say The Weeknd was probably the artist that I would have picked, but for some reason, he chose to be not The Weeknd that we saw. I would have picked The Weeknd who did the song I Can't Feel My Face, where he had, like, this really fun Michael Jackson aesthetic, or even Bruno Mars. I think Bruno Mars would have been a good choice.
I love Bruno Mars. Now, see, because he's fun and happy and upbeat. You know, that I would have loved to have seen Bruno Mars. Yeah.
And definitely not like Billie Eilish, because she's a little bit too depressed.
But no, we needed happy.
We needed a Bruno Mars in this instance.
Yes. Bruno, come back. All right, we're going to come back with some more news, and a little bit later, we're going to talk to Chuck Yates and all kinds of great guests. We'll be back with more in just a bit on the Culture Corner.
You're listening to Bonnie Gilgallon and Brayan Mendoza, talking arts and entertainment on iHub Radio's The Culture Corner. Here are Bonnie and Brayan.
And we're back on The Culture Corner. I think now we're going to talk about Michelle Obama has a new show, a new cooking show. Do you know when it debuts and what channel it's on and all that good stuff?
Now, it's going to be on Netflix, from my understanding. Okay. It's going to be on Netflix, and it's called Waffles and Mochi, and it's going to be Michelle Obama interacting with a lot of, like, puppets to promote, you know, healthy cooking for
Which she's
kids.
Always been, that was one of her things.
And it's coming out March 16th.
Okay.
And so it's going to have two puppets named Waffles and Mochi, and Michelle Obama is going to be like a supermarket owner, and it's going to chronicle their journey to try to become chefs, according to CNN.
Oh, that's so cute. I like that.
And here is I think this is the official statement from Netflix. With the help of friendly new faces like the supermarket owner, Mrs. Obama, and a magical flying shopping cart as their guide, Waffles and Mochi blast off on global ingredient missions, traveling to kitchens, restaurants, farms, and homes all over the world, cooking up recipes with everyday ingredients alongside renowned chefs, home cooks, kids, and celebrities.
Oh, I love that. That's great. So it combines a whole bunch of stuff. Healthy food, good nutrition, cooking, Michelle Obama, kids, fun. Yeah, that's great.
Culture, too. Like, you get to see different households.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised if they go and talk about soul food and they talk about Mexican food and all
different cultures, kinds of food. Yeah, that's great.
I'm
That's
actually
super.
really happy about that, and to be honest, I might actually watch it.
Yeah. And I've always loved Michelle Obama, and I had read her book Becoming a year or so ago, and I just finished A Promised Land, Barack Obama's new book, which is great. But Michelle, I've always liked her. She's got great charisma. She's an intelligent, educated person, great charisma. Kids seem to love her, and I think it's great.
You know, it's one of those things when it comes to like, my bad, first ladies. And a lot of politicians, when they get into, I noticed recently, they've been getting into like entertainment. Like Hillary Clinton is getting into television too with a documentary. And she's also been she has a podcast. Hillary Clinton actually has a podcast called You and Me Both or something like that. And I think it's great that a lot of first ladies are starting to kind of realize that, hey, I don't have to just be a first lady in the traditional
background,
sense. I could also be on entertainment, and I think people would be interested to hearing what Michelle Obama has to say about cooking. And I think that I think because it's going to be herself, that I think some people might say, well, what about, can she act? Can she entertain? And I think that she's very charismatic. And
Absolutely.
I think that a lot of the best children's shows tend to be with people who just simply play themselves, like Mr. Rogers.
Exactly. And I think that's basically, I mean, she might be the shop owner or whatever, but she's going to basically be herself. I don't think she's pulling on some big character, you know.
And I think that it's another, it shows that when it came to the project of Move On, which is like, let's get America moving, let's exercise,
right.
It just kind of proves that she was authentic about it. I know a lot of first ladies, you know, they fall into the trap of they'll do something really great with their cause, but then afterwards it kind of doesn't seem like it's their,
it just fades away
anymore.
Yeah.
Like Hillary Clinton, I think her general cause was healthcare, right? And in the White House, so hers, you know, I'm not going to really hold her to that standard.
I mean, I think she helped build the blocks, pave the way towards that ultimately Barack Obama getting. I mean, she championed that early on. So I think her efforts helped along that road.
Yeah, and in the case of, but in some cases like Laura Bush, like, and
was
Barbara
reading,
and Barbara Bush, like, both of them were about reading, and I would have been interested to see their efforts a little bit stronger afterwards. I'm curious to see. I'm not to get too much into it, but like, I wonder if Melania Trump will feel interested in talking more about the Be Best thing, but that's a whole different thing.
Yeah, whole different. Yeah.
But
I'm not holding my breath. That's all I'll say.
But I'm glad that Michelle Obama is at least keeping to her word and showing that she actually cares about the issue, because she could honestly just write a memoir and she'll still
do
be
nothing.
beloved.
Yeah. And she's planted that garden on the White House lawn. I mean, she really walked the talk. I mean, she didn't just stand there and talk about it. She really made some effort to change things.
And again, if anyone's interested, it's March 16th. And it's going to be called Waffles and Mochi. So I'm going to be excited about it. And maybe I'll even talk about it when it comes on. Because I would love to see. Maybe I'm actually curious, though, about whether or not kids will be as interested in it as the adults are. Because the adults are the ones who are certainly bigger fans of Michelle Obama. Where kids, you know, they kind of tend to, as silly as it sounds, kids tend to like the people that are in the White House. I'm sure like there were kids out there that liked like Bush during his era or the Clinton era. And because it's like there's always this mindset of when you go to school, the president is the president and it doesn't matter what he does, kids typically still like the president that they're with. Like there's a group of kids that they're still weirded out that I actually met a kid that's like, I never knew that Barack Obama was the first black president. I thought presidents were like, that
Wow.
there've always been black presidents because in his mindset he grew up with a black president.
Right. So
Whereas me and you, it was like a big moment.
And that reminds me also, this show, because Michelle Obama was the first African-American first lady, I think she's also still a role model for African-American children, especially little girls. So they'll watch it for that reason as well, which is great.
I think if anything, this will appeal to black families the most, especially with families with black girls, because I think that a lot of them still view Michelle Obama as like this icon.
Yeah, and now we've got Kamala Harris as VP, so I think it's just really great. I have a feeling the show's going to do really well.
I agree. I hope it lasts more than one season. I noticed that sometimes Netflix, they drop a children's show after one season. I hope so.
Well, all right, coming up our next segment, Chuck Yates talking about what's going on with Coyote Stageworks in just a moment.
The curtain rises on local and regional arts and entertainment. From music to theater, films to fine art, it's the Culture Corner. Get connected. Call 760-544-TALK. That's 760-544-8255. Here's Bonnie and Brayan on iHub Radio.
And we're back, and I'm so excited to have on the phone now my buddy Chuck Yates, who is a really multi-talented guy, actor, director, and artistic director and founder of Coyote Stageworks. Hey, Chuck, how you doing?
Bonnie, I'm doing great. How are you?
Good. So how have you been handling this crazy pandemic lockdown stuff we've been going through?
Well, I guess it all depends on the day, but I'm being really careful, and I'm here. It's been almost a year, but I'm hanging.
Yeah, that it is. It's crazy. It was like March, so we're coming up on a year. When this started, I don't think any of us thought it was going to be a year. I really don't.
I thought it was going to be 2 months.
Actually, when we shut down on March 12th, when we shut down Velocity of Autumn, which was the day before it was supposed to open, we were in talks with the Cultural Center of just holding for like 30 days and reopening in April. Well, that was on a Thursday, and by Sunday we realized that wasn't happening. So here we sit, and the set still sits on the stage, and we are all just on pause.
So what are your plans? So are you looking towards the fall? I know some theater companies have kind of done a couple of the live stream things with short plays. Do you have anything like that in the works?
Actually, no, we don't, and here's the reason why. And it's a personal preference thing, but I worked in television, and I made a lot of money in television, and I left television, and that's not what I want to do. That's not what we do. We do live theater, and so it's a personal thing. But I have seen several things that other companies have done, and trying to support people. But that's not where we're spending our money right now. So we are waiting till it is a good time to announce what's going to happen. And right now, it doesn't, with the news changing daily, there's no clear picture. So we have some things in the works. As I said, we have the set of Velocity of Autumn still sitting on the stage at the Cultural Center. That will be our first production when we are able to go back inside of a theater.
Okay.
In the meantime, I have been working on some outdoor cabaret concerts at the Cultural Center. We were getting ready to announce those when they shut all the restaurants down again a few months ago. And now those are opened back up, and we're kind of waiting just to see, because, when you start announcing things, it starts costing money. So we're kind of waiting to see how this new opening does with the restaurants and what that does to the numbers, and readdress that when that seems like it might be a good idea to do. But we want to do some outdoor cabaret concerts under the stars, and also reboot our Barbara Keller Playdate Reader Series outdoors. And we've come up with some ways to do that with some physical distancing and all that kind of stuff. And it would be outside. So it'll be a lot of fun if it's safe to do.
Now, would it be outside of the cultural center, like in the parking lot, or where physically would it be?
Yes, in the parking lot.
Okay.
Yeah.
And
Go ahead.
How many people, are you foreseeing that you could seat or set up chairs? I don't know, you'd be spaced out and all that stuff.
Well, the parking lot's pretty large, and we think we can probably get, again, safety is the key word.
Right.
So when I say this stuff, just know we are looking at doing things as safely as possible or not at all.
Right.
So safety's the key word. But we had kind of talked to the cultural center and mapped out in the parking lot how to space people and get probably about 50 or perhaps more people in that parking lot. And, of course, they have refreshments there and all that kind of stuff. And that would be for the cabaret series. And then the reader series we do for free, which we always have. It's free for the community. And we would space that out in the same kind of way. But, I say all this hesitantly because, again, safety is the key word. I'm not interested in going somewhere and putting myself at risk, nor am I interested in putting anyone else in risk. So we are just kind of, it's trying to keep your fingers on the pulse to see, what we can do. And so that's why we haven't announced anything at this point.
So what would be for you, so they've just reopened outdoor dining, and some places are now having live music outdoors, which I have mixed feelings about. What would be sort of the decision, the line that would make a decision for you as to, yes, let's go forward with the stuff outside?
I guess the line is we're watching closely what's happening with the health department and with the numbers.
Yeah.
And, if by reopening a lot of the stuff, and, I've got so many friends who own restaurants and I feel for them. Yeah. But I'm watching all of this to see if any of this has any effect on, the rates of cases and that sort of thing. And if we are able to keep the numbers down with these reopenings, then that would sway our decision-making process and make that a little bit easier. But we still have, regardless of what anybody in official capacity says, we still have a public perception. And getting people to come is an entirely different animal. So, there's a few things that we are weighing at each step. And just because one thing happens doesn't mean that people are going to be ready to come, even sit outside. And that's the hard part to know. And you can't blame anyone for feeling nervous or shy about wanting to come and sit, even if you're 6 feet apart or 10 feet apart or whatever. We just don't have that answer at this moment.
Yeah. And I think, of course, the more and more people get vaccinated will help as well, even though that's not, that's not an absolute guarantee. But I think people who've had both vaccinations, I think would feel a little more comfortable coming out than not. So I think that will help as well.
Also the governor's orders too. That's true. Also, like the governor, it doesn't matter how many people get vaccinated and how safe everyone is. If we can't open because of the governor, then that's also another factor.
Yeah,
too.
And that's been kind of fluid.
Exactly. And like I said earlier, we put a few things in motion, and we're getting ready to announce them when the when certain things got pulled and we couldn't do them, and that's very frustrating.
Sure.
Of course, and you put a lot of work into. So I've got a stack of ideas here, just waiting for, and if this happens, we can do this. If this happens, we can do that. And but right now, nothing. I mean, right now we're not acting on anything because, it's just so bizarre.
So can you tell us a little bit about once you get that green light or you decide we're going ahead, tell us a little bit about the cabaret shows and how that work. Are you talking about one singer, one piano player, or what kind of groups?
Exactly. That would be the way we start. We'll be one singer, one piano player, trying to keep that part of it, safe as possible. And also with the reader series, it's trying to find plays.
Small cast
that we can spread. Of course, everybody's reading, so there's no blocking or anything.
Right.
But, small cast that we can spread out across whatever stage we come up with. And, that's exactly the plan. One singer, one piano player.
So, Chuck, what do you, in your mind, I mean, I think that people keep talking about the new normal. I mean, I don't think we're never going to go back to exactly the way things were before, I think, which probably we shouldn't. But what do you see what is your gut feeling or theory as to where local theater is going to be a year from now?
Oh, gosh. Well, I guess if I had that answer to that,
what's your guess? If you had a crystal ball, what is your gut feeling? What do you foresee, probably, just based on what's happened so far?
Well, a lot of it. Let me see if I can answer this question.
Okay.
A lot of it depends on when and if we can get back into a theater. Because if that part of it doesn't happen, then obviously a lot of things are going to change drastically. Mm-hmm. And, it may be that we're not back inside of a theater for another year. Mm-hmm. But part of what we've sort of been talking about is or at least getting, feet wet and getting back into things, is that maybe there's not a season. Maybe it is a piecemeal, because I've got a stack of plays that we can produce. But maybe it's not announcing a full season, and you announce we're going to do this play and see how it goes. And then we will announce the next play. And that, that kind of disrupts the subscription series idea of theater. Yeah. But not knowing, to announce a full season and to put all that money into pre-planning and sets and all that kind of stuff. And like I said, we've got one sitting on the stage for a year, and that money is just tied up.
Right.
We can't make that money back until we open it, and we can't do anything until we can open it. Yeah. So that's one idea we're looking at, is sort of a patchwork, sort of a a piecemeal kind of season. Yeah. And just and if you can do 3 or 4 plays that year, great.
Great.
If you can't, you're not out, a huge budget. Yeah. So we're trying to be very, very
careful,
respectful, and protective of the money that is donated to us.
Right.
We have to act responsibly.
Right.
So,
Chuck, we're running out of time, but I was wondering if you can give me kind of a short answer, maybe three words. What has kept you sane personally over the last year?
My dog.
Okay. All right.
Seriously, my dog. I'm in my 1-bedroom apartment with my dog for a year, and if it wasn't for her, I would be here by myself. So that's. Yeah. And also, I got a lot of friends. We do a lot of video chatting,
Zooming
and
stuff.
Yeah.
Well,
and Go ahead.
Okay, we're running out of time. But Chuck, so great to talk to you. I got my fingers crossed that it's going to stay open and you guys can do some stuff even outside cabaret shows. I miss you, miss live theater. Thanks so much for being here, and keep staying sane and have fun with your dog.
I'm doing what I can do. I appreciate talking to you, though. Thank you.
All right, Chuck. Thank you so much. Chuck Yates, Coyote Stageworks. Love him. All right, we'll be back with more on the Culture Corner in just a moment.
You're listening to Bonnie Gilgallon and Brayan Mendoza, talking arts and entertainment on iHub Radio's The Culture Corner. Live from the desert cities of Southern California, here's Brayan and Bonnie.
And we're back once again with the Culture Corner and back to some entertainment news. And this is why I'm so glad that Brayan co-hosts with me, because he's keeps his finger on the pulse of what's happening in TV and social media and that stuff. And so I didn't know that much about this story. Gina, is it Carano?
Yeah, Gina Carano.
Was fired from the Mandalorian due to controversial social media history. So tell us a little bit about what happened.
So there's a TV show called The Mandalorian on Disney Plus. So if you haven't seen it, it is a big success, and it got nominated for the Primetime Emmy for Best Drama. So I got to give you the context that it is a successful show, and it's getting a lot of spin-offs. It's one show that has several spin-offs, and it's a Star Wars spin-off. So it's a spin-off of Star Wars that has generated
its own spin-offs,
its own legacy and 2 seasons. And if anything, if you haven't seen the show, you've seen like the Baby Yoda stuff. That's the stuff.
Yeah.
So Gina Carano plays a kind of a bounty hunter on the show. So it's about bounty hunters. And so she is a much more complex character on the show. And even though she's not a lead in the sense, she has had a lot of episodes. And the funny thing is, a lot of the people defending her now actually attacked her acting in the first season. A lot of
interesting
conservative media and a lot of reactionary people that defend her now. That's just an irony that I'm going to point out. But in terms of what she did to get fired, so this isn't the first time that Gina Carano has put her foot in her mouth. So what the latest thing is that she basically compared being a Jewish person during the Holocaust and Nazi Germany to being a Republican nowadays, which I would not have done that. Even
no one with a brain would have done that. Yeah.
No, that's even. Look, this is the thing. Freedom of speech is beautiful and important, but that doesn't mean that your boss isn't going to say, "Okay, I need you out of here."
Exactly. They have a right to hire who they want, and there can be morals clauses. If you behave in a way that the owner of their company that hired you doesn't like, they can fire you, and that's just life. And
I kind of want to make it clear to people. And if you disagree, feel free to call, because that's always a topic that I'm willing to have a conversation about. The thing is, if you're a celebrity let's say you work for Disney, your HR department isn't Disney's HR department. It's the people that you are representing on screen, which are the fans. The fans are your HR department. And if the HR department unanimously tells you, look, we really don't like you. And this isn't the first time. She has been very transphobic, and then she also has had made jokes about wearing masks. There's this photo of a man wearing multiple masks on his face, and it was overkill. But honestly, I'd rather overkill.
But now they're saying 2 is better, so
So even her comment has aged badly. And she said in her comment, "Meanwhile in California," and then Disney had proposed, and this is a rumor, but a lot of people close to Disney have said that they were going to give her a spinoff, but because of her her accusations of fraud during the election, and she wasn't thinking of fraud because of actual fraud, which is why are black voters.
She was believing the big lie.
The big lie, and so they basically retroactively took that away from her. and they've been thinking, should we keep her around? And so they finally
then she
fire her.
did this thing.
Yeah, and this is the last straw. And you know what? It's one of those things where they have kept her around for so long because I think they were worried of the.
And she was popular with the fans. Yeah,
popular with the fans, and the character is well liked because when you watch the show, I didn't like her when season 1 happened because that's when she was starting to be bad. But when I was watching season 2, I was like, okay, I'm just going to watch the show. I don't care if Gina Carano's in it. Because, I watched Growing Pains, and I don't like Kirk Cameron.
Yeah, because he's a weirdo, too.
And it's hard for me to, separate Kirk
Me
Cameron
too.
on Growing Pains. I watch it, and I'm annoyed, right?
I can't watch Tom Cruise for that reason. Yeah.
And so Gina Carano, believe it or not, her character was written well enough that I can separate this really humble character who cares about the lower people, the people who are disenfranchised. So I kind of am like, why can't she be more like her character? That's the thing that I think is so funny to me. But I think because Disney had saw that fans can distance themselves, but they kept her around. But I think now they're like, okay, once you bring in the Holocaust, it's not fun anymore.
They're joking about the Holocaust is not ever appropriate. It's just not. And to compare being a Republican, we're so oppressed, our Republicans. No one is throwing Republicans onto trains and taking them to concentration camps and killing them. It's not happening. So I don't want to hear that. That's absurd. Really absurd. And it's an insult to anyone who is Jewish and had a relative. It's to all of us, but anyone who's Jewish, or especially someone who had a relative who was in a concentration camp or was killed, for her to say that is just outrageous.
And I think that Gina Carano needs to realize your actions
have consequences.
And what she said, I think she's also a coward, to be honest, because she every time gets called out, she deletes the posts after she gets called out,
and then that's it, and she doesn't say anything more about it. Well, I'm gonna take it off.
She even deleted this post, and I said to myself, you got fired from Disney. You're a coward because even after getting fired, you still chose to delete it. And they call it dirty deleting on social media when you post something and you delete it. Yeah. That is dirty, in my opinion. When you post something controversial and then you delete it with no real sincerity. I think now the thing is, if you made a mistake,
own up to it.
And Pedro Pascal, her coworker on The Mandalorian, who is the lead, he actually, a lot of people really love him. So the opposite is that his sister came out as a trans woman, and he's very supportive and loving, and he's always been very supportive of the trans community. And I like the fact that no one's dragged him for not saying anything against her
into this whole thing.
Because you know what, I think for him to be supportive of his trans sister speaks to what he thinks about the situation.
That's all he needs to do,
as opposed to Gina Carano, who's made fun of pronouns, because her thing was, people put their pronouns on their Twitter bio. She posted something like boop, bop, bop as sort of a joke. And then later on she said, I now understand what pronouns mean because Pedro Pascal said it. Because apparently they talked about it. And I think that Pedro Pascal is doing a good job distancing himself from it, because sometimes when you're on a positive high train, you don't need to be in the mud.
You don't need to say anything. Well, I just think it's important. We talked, these days there are consequences for actions and for words. I think that's really important. A lot of people have found that out the hard way, is you can't just throw that stuff out and spew it out and expect nothing to happen. Well, I'm on a TV show, so it doesn't matter. Yeah, it does.
And also, we'll talk about a later event with Joss Whedon. Your events retroactively, your bad things
come back to haunt you.
Because trust me, if Harvey Weinstein didn't get away with it, you're certainly not. But you know what? I would say that, Gina Carano's now going on to the Daily Wire, and I have a feeling she's going to be a conservative pundit. And you know what? You stick to that, you do that, but leave the Jews out of it.
Exactly. And no joke. That's not funny. That's not the least bit funny. All right, we're going to be back with much more in the Culture Corner after a break. We'll see you in just a bit.